Greg Kelly Show.
Hello. Here we are. Once again, I think that this show had a major impact on world affairs. Very interesting conversation we had here on this program with Brett Eagleson. Brett Eagleson's a great guy. He lost his dad, Bruce, in the 9/11 attacks. And Brett was only 15 years old when his dad died. And, it was a horrible, horrible day. And, we're still living with the aftermath. But he's been beating the drum about this for a long time. Saudi Arabia has all kinds of documents and knowledge about those hijackers. They were tracking them. They were talking to them before the 9/11 attacks. 19 or 18 of them came from Saudi Arabia. And bin Laden himself was really upset with Saudi Arabia. It's one of the reasons why he got so mad about America. America had bases in Saudi Arabia. It kind of radicalized him. So mad, so mad. Anyway, Saudi Arabia had pretty close tabs on Al-Qaeda, bin Laden, and those hijackers. What did they know and when did they know it? And why was there a Saudi intelligence official coming to the United States and filming creepy videos in front of the United States Capitol, saying all kinds of ugly things, that this is where the snakes meet and this is where they will die? He made a video like this in 1999. The man who did that video is still alive in Saudi Arabia, still works for Saudi Arabia. So, the FBI knows stuff too. There are a lot of people who know stuff about 9/11. But the Saudis, they've got significant intel, and we want it, and we want that guy who made those videos. What the hell was he thinking? What was he doing? Why was he meeting and having meals with the 9/11 hijackers in England in the months and years ahead of the 9/11 attacks? So Brett Eagleson comes on the show. I've had him on a bunch. I really like the guy. And he has an organization, by the way, 911justice.org, 911justice.org. And he recognizes, when I'm not saying the Saudi Arabia is an enemy of America. It's not, actually. It's a friend of America's. And we do a lot of good things together. Granted, they don't live the way we live. They've got some interesting and different customs. But, we don't live in an ethnocentric world, right? This works for us. That seems to work for them. And I'm not saying that MBS, what's that guy's name? Mohammed bin Saud. The head prince over there, the guy who's like worth $1 gazillion, he's running the show right now. He's a reasonable guy behind the scenes. And we entered into this we're going to have a nuclear agreement with them. We're going to help them develop peaceful nuclear energy. Well, that really set off my buddy there, Brett Eagleson. And he made the rounds yesterday saying, wait a second. How can we have a nuclear deal with Saudi Arabia if Saudi Arabia isn't doing the basics on this 9/11 stuff that we've been talking about for a long time? Where are the documents? Where is this intelligence official? Why do you guys not give him to the Americans, or at least offer him up for questioning? There's a lot of unfinished business regarding 9/11 that we got that needs to be settled. And it would be great if it were settled before the 9/11 anniversary, which is coming here very, very soon. I think that's it's a pretty reasonable, decent request. And I know that President Trump is a reasonable and decent man. More than that, he's awesome. He's awesome in every way. And nobody knows 9/11 like he knows 9/11. He was there. A lot of his people were there. He was deeply affected and moved. We all were, but, President Trump had the resources to put people down there, to put money, and kind of changed his way of, a little bit changed his way of thinking. I think he got a little bit smarter about foreign policy. He was one of the few people in the country who said, you know what, maybe we don't have to go into Iraq. What is this all about? A lot of other people were just jumping on that bandwagon. So all this to say that last night, actually early this morning, President Trump put out a Truth Social. And the Truth Social says that Saudi Arabia must join the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel and do all these things before they get any nukes, before we help them with their nuclear. And I got a bunch of text messages yesterday saying this is because of that. This is because of the interviews you've been doing with Brett Eagleson. and not me really, it's Brett. Brett makes such a great case. He's so articulate, he's so knowledgeable, and he talks about this and why, we've got some things to clear up with Saudi Arabia before we should move forward on this deal. So President Trump comes out after the deal has been settled. The energy secretary said it, President Trump, everybody's shaking hands. We have a deal. But all of a sudden this thing comes in. Wait a second. We don't have a deal unless they join the Abraham Accords. Now, what do the Abraham Accords have to do with 9/11? Officially, nothing. Unofficially, everything. So if President Trump were to come out right now and say, we're not doing this deal until they give us that man who made those creepy videos in front of the Capitol. What the hell was that all about? He doesn't want to talk about 9/11 with the Saudis because that would be impolitique. All right? It's a complex world. We got a war going on with Iran right now. We need all the friends we can get, and we don't want to antagonize people unnecessarily. Right? So that's the official public reason for slowing down this nuclear, and behind the scenes, we're going to get that guy. We're going to get the documents. We're going to get everything that Brett and his friends and those who want justice for the 9/11 victims. I don't like calling them victims, actually. The 9/11 heroes. The 9/11 heroes. Those who were killed on 9/11 and those who were grievously injured on 9/11. Everything changed. Everything changed. I have a feeling he's going to get what he's been asking for. That is, look, I've been watching this for a long time, and kind of can, so, there's always another little, you got to read between the lines, and I think we're onto something here. And I am very, very happy that, that at least there's a speed bump, and I think there's more at work. What do you think, huh? What do you think? It wouldn't be the first time that this show has had an impact on national affairs. Some of the things we've been talking about with January 6th, I'm so proud of the work we did on January 6th. Some people say, what's your favorite story? What are you most proud of? And I will have to say, it's the work that we did on January 6th. Not being shy about it when others retreated, when others ran, when others said, oh boy, yeah, just, this is bad, Greg, shut up, this was an insurrection, and look at those people. I said, no. I'm going to look at the evidence. I'm going to look at not what people are telling me. I'm going to look at the evidence, what exists. I'm also going to factor in what was happening at the time. I'm not going to shut my mouth because, they're police officers. I took one look at Fanone and Dunn and Gunnell and Hodges. I knew they were fakes. Three out of four of the January 6th Capitol cops got book deals. How's that? 3 out of the 4 got book deals. The January 6th guys who testified. That was a crummy case. We still don't know. We still so much more to uncover. All right. So that's good. Very good. Hey, the other thing, Mamdani is always in the news now. All right. He knows how to make news, not by doing a better job for you and me and for New York. Right. Doing the nuts and bolts stuff you got to do to be mayor. Making sure transportation is good, making sure housing is good, making sure the streets, no potholes, making sure you take care of the cops, making sure you empower them, making sure they have all the stuff they need. That takes work. And the payback, the payoff for that work isn't immediate, right? It's like long-term stuff. You get on social media and start accusing Israel of Gaza, in about 2 seconds you got 50,000 people yelling and screaming and applauding you. Anti-Semitism and anti-Jewishness is a real thing. It's a real thing, and that man exudes it. The words he used for Netanyahu, the headline was, okay, he understands he can't arrest him. To me, he always knew that. There was no way we were going to let Netanyahu, this punk, put handcuffs on that global hero. No way. Ever. You think the Israeli security would ever let that punk get anywhere near Netanyahu? Maybe for the photo op, he could come by and serve a warrant, drop off a letter at his hotel. He couldn't even get into the hotel, Mamdani. For a lot of reasons, he shouldn't be allowed into that hotel. Now, the thing about it is he actually was able to say genocide. The headline wasn't that he once again accused Israel falsely of genocide and Netanyahu of genocide, war criminal. He gets to say that all again, but now it's just kind of assumed. It's not even noticed anymore when when people say genocide. Genocide, genocide, genocide. It's genocide. Well, what the hell is genocide? I know what genocide looks like. If you look at the Holocaust and you see all those human skeletons, some dead, some barely alive. You see the gas chambers. You see piles and piles of shoes. You see starvation. You see death. You see American soldiers liberating Dachau and seeing it and documenting it and becoming sick. Eisenhower, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. It's unambiguous. It is in man's inhumanity to man. No doubt about it. Genocide. Trying to wipe out an entire race, religion, creed. Then I go to Gaza. I look at what's happening in Gaza. Now, they're always telling me it's a genocide. It's a genocide. It's a genocide. Well, if it's a genocide, why are there so many fat people over there? Why are there so many fat people in Gaza? Sorry to be so blunt, so crude. I decided, you know what? I hear this word so much, they don't even know what it means. And I had to go back, and all these UN videos about all the starvation that's happening over there, they are laughable. They are like Saturday Night Live skits. I'm telling you, it's a great big fraud. Now, I've known that for a while, but another switch was flipped when Mamdani kept on talking about genocide and accusing Netanyahu of war crimes. You know who does war crimes? Hamas, the radicalized Palestinians. It's very common throughout Gaza, the West Bank. You know, they go after women and children. That's who they target on purpose. For Israel, it's collateral damage. We don't want that to happen. Suicide bombings on buses. And you know what's even more disgusting and tragic in a way? Maybe not more. I don't know. But it really is horrific. It'll give you nightmares. I suggest you don't go to these websites, but there are websites out there where you can see Hamas doing their dirty work. You can see them cutting off heads. You can see all this stuff. But even worse than that is who they're getting to do it. Children, little kids, recruiting little kids to join Hamas, exposing them to the violence, the rhetoric, the propaganda. You know, having a little kid run around with a head cut off. I saw a video of a little kid, couldn't have been 10 years old. I'd say he was about 9. Executing people, bullet to the head. Now, Golda Meir, the late great leader of Israel, once said something very, very profound about children and war. She said, one day, maybe we can forgive them for killing our children, but we can never forgive them for making us kill theirs. It's very interesting. At first, I didn't quite understand it, but in war, there will be, and it's certainly in a place like Gaza, so it's so tight, right? There's going to be collateral damage. That's one of the, I mean, it's just, it happens when we go to war, it happens when superpowers go to war, it happens when any country goes to war. There's going to be the innocent loss of life. Anyway, back to the starvation. There's no starvation. I saw it. I mean, I saw the most beautiful 3-year-old kid, the most beautiful, cute 3-year-old kid over there in Gaza getting food for her family, little girl. And she lives in a great big tent city, and kind of like the one on the Upper West Side, right? You know, it looked a little bit like some of the stuff we got going in New York. And I'm watching this, and I'm supposed to feel sorry for the people. I'm supposed to feel this is the most adorable kid. I have no beef with the kid, obviously. We love children. And those who are being forced into the army, the Hamas terrorist group, well, gosh, that's a whole other. But anyway, I'd like you to hear this, all right, because something hilarious actually happens. In the midst of all this thing that I'm told is famine and despair and destruction, something hilarious happens. Cut 13, if you don't mind. Cut 13. Actually, you know what? Justin, do me a favor. Hold off on that, because this is almost like a documentary. I almost want to give it away. Well, let me put it to you this way. If you had a family of 7 kids, mother, father, 7 kids, who would do the grocery shopping? With the mother? With the father? Would you do fresh direct? No, or maybe you might send, I don't know, the 14-year-old the 15-year-old, maybe the 11-year-old. They do it a little bit differently there, and they're busted, totally busted. ABC News, fake news strikes again. It's epic. Be right back.
Joe.
Yes, the newest member of the WABC family, Michael Cohen. Not without some controversy, of course. Good kind of controversy. What can I tell you? I like Michael. I despised him there for a little bit. I did. And the only thing I need to straighten out for sure, did he apologize to President Trump? I interviewed him and I challenged him a little bit about, what about the time you called him a racist, and what about this and what about that? And I don't know. He kind of said, well, he was in jail and he started to think about all the horrible things, the worst thing he could say about somebody. And so he said that. And I know, he's making up with President Trump, but part of that is apologizing. You got to apologize. Even if you were forced by the prosecutor, Michael, did you apologize? Did you say, I am sorry for what I did? Because at the very minimum, we know that you had to lie to a lot of people. You lied to a lot of people. Now, maybe you had no choice. Maybe that's the way you felt. Maybe, people will do anything to save their family. I know that, right? It's easy to say, yeah, I would never do that. I would never, ever, ever. Yeah, well, how would you like it if we arrested your family? How would you like it, if we did something to your wife? I would not put that past the Biden Justice Department. Absolutely not. But I think still you owe him an apology, a big apology, The racist stuff was the weirdest, right? The racist stuff. I know President Trump pretty well, and I've seen him over the years, and I see the way he is. And I would say, you could say, the least racist person. It's very unusual, actually, how he interacts with people. Very unusual. We've seen him with all kinds of people, right? We see him with reporters. We see him with kings. We see him with presidents. We see him with senators. We see him with rappers. We see him with everybody. He's not above anybody. You notice I heard that. I'll talk to anybody. I will talk to anybody. And he still has to fight that battle. There are people around him. That's not presidential. You really shouldn't do that. No, you don't understand. They don't understand him. They also don't understand a man who wants to get something done. You're not that concerned about how you look all the time. How does this look? That's Obama. Oh, we got to have those deliverables, the deliverables. Why do you have to have deliverables? Why do you have to make a whole bunch of agreements, the staff, before you get there? Like, then you getting there for the big summit is just a show. Yeah, so we all have something to point to, and we have a deliverable. How about getting there and actually working it out? How about picking up the phone and actually working it out yourself? That's what I always thought. I couldn't believe that when President Trump called Ukraine, there were like 17 people on the phone, including Alex Vindman, who, by the way, is going nowhere fast. He's running for the U.S. Senate. How about that? 2 of the witnesses against President Trump. I should do something on that. How they all got books, how they all got speaking gigs, one of them is in Congress right now. The other one's running for the Senate. Vindman, Schlubby Vindman, the poor father from Brooklyn. He knew that Trump was all right. Those schlubs, the Vindman boys. All right, back to that situation. Where were we? Oh, yes, Gaza. So this is ABC News, and they do a little report. This is just like 2 nights ago about how everybody is starving over there in Gaza. All right, now listen carefully. All right, it's going to be tough. Just trust me. This little girl they're talking about is 3 years old. She's so cute, a little bit scruffy, right? Walking around and. It's not exactly the nicest place in the world, but she's well fed. She's not skinny, not fat, beautiful. Cut 13, if you don't mind. Cut 13. Very poignant.
Armed with a pot the size of her head, 3-year-old Wad Qasim walks a now familiar route. Along the melee of makeshift tents where she's been living for the past 2 years. To get food for her family.
يروح على المية. تيجي مثلا التكية، بابا اجت التكية، بتيجي تاخذ الطنجرة وبتجري.
Ward, standing tall with her pot, waits among the chaos of the crowd, while other members of her family go to other sites to increase their chances of getting food. Growing impatient by each minute, she stares into the pot, the reflection of the sun briefly blinding her eyes. This
stop
seems
for a
still
second.
common in Gaza.
Stop. She's got a great big pot. She's cute as so cute, right? And she's waiting for food. They're making it sound like there's total, complete chaos there. I mean, they're loud, but there's not. She's at the head of the line. She's right there at the table. Granted, she's short, but you can see her there. And they're pretending like this is a riot. It's not. She's just she is getting a little bit ignored. Imagine being at a McDonald's like in the afternoon. It's not that crowded. It's, just like there are people there, but it's not that crowded. And there's a 3-year-old kid at the counter, right? There's a 3-year-old kid at the counter with a great big pot. Everybody else has a pot too. Keep going.
Months after the US brokered a ceasefire.
لا الحياة يا أخي ما تحسنت بعد وقف إطلاق النار.
Wad's family among the 1.6 million people in Gaza who rely on food handouts like these, according to the UN. On this day, no member of the family was able to get food. Wad becomes lost in the crowd despite her efforts. Our producer intervenes on the ground, and a worker, out of compassion, gave food to Wad.
Stop. Okay, a worker, out of compassion. How about she's got a pot like everybody else, you give her food. I mean, like everybody's getting food. It's not crowded. It's not nearly, it's just it's busy. It's busy. And she's the only 3-year-old kid with a pot, by the way. Everybody else is an adult. All right? They sent a 3-year-old kid downtown to get food for the family. Anyway, she's got a nice big bowl of pot full of stew. Go to the next. Keep going, please.
She successfully secured a meal for her family, bringing back home a pot full of stew to her relatives. 12 of them live here in this tent.
Stop.
So
okay, so she goes in with the pot, and she sits down next to somebody who appears to be her mother, who's about 40 years old and plump. And her sisters or somebody, one appears to be teenager, I'd say 15, the other's 12, okay? But they sent and they're sitting down, like just chillaxing, and then the 3-year-old comes in with the pot of food. You get what I'm saying here? Like, why in the world would you send a 3-year-old to get food when you got, how many relatives did he say? 12 people. 12 in the house. It's a stunt. It is fake news. It is propaganda, whatever you want to call it. Nobody in the world sends a 3-year-old kid down to the war zone to get food when you got big brothers and sisters all over the place, 12 of them. What a farce. ABC News. And you know who does this show? It's that Lindsay Davis, who's like the it girl at ABC. She is the it girl. I don't know why. But boy, do they she everywhere over there. I thought that was pretty hilarious. You got to see it. I'm going to make a video about it later. The 3-year-old goes with a pot of food. And then, who remembers UNICEF when you were a kid? The UNICEF boxes, right? Little orange boxes. I use those for the kids. Orange boxes from the UN. We'd raise money when we were Halloweening, when we were trick-or-treating, Halloweening. So the UNICEF is down there. UNICEF. Again, they're trying to tell me how hungry everybody is. I'm sorry, but I'm using my own eyes here. Everybody is nourished. You would never look and say, oh, wow, what's going on there? All those malnourished people, all those skinny people. No. Middle Eastern men, you hear all the time, American men are the fattest in the world, or American people. That's not true, actually. Pakistan has the biggest people in the world. Pakistan does. Partly it's because of all that pita bread they're always eating. Okay? Now listen to this guy, the spokesman for the World Food from UNICEF. Cut 12, if you don't mind. Cut 12.
We've been going around the market for a bit now and asking about the prices and how people are coping with the situation. As you could see, some items are in the market. The ceasefire had given a glimpse of hope of access to aid and commercial goods. But unfortunately, we're still far from what is needed. The problem is the prices. The prices are really high for anyone to get food for their families.
Stop! Welcome to the world. Grocery prices are up all over the place. Okay, but there it's an atrocity. There it's a war crime. Give me a break. I'm sorry. And by the way, the produce looked fine. When I see these images and these tales of woe, which really don't look to be tales of woe, they look to be manufactured and fake. I think back to October 7th, and I think back to the young women they were throwing into the back of pickup trucks so they can bring them to the tunnels and rape them. That's what I think about, right? And the yelling and the screaming. I can't have much sympathy, especially when, really it's fake. It's not a genocide when they're dropping food into the war zone the day after the war starts. They were doing that. Israel was doing that. They didn't just let it for the UN. Israel was dropping food for their enemies in Gaza. How about that one? All this concern about the children who are hungry. What about the children they killed on October 7th? What about the children they forced to become terrorists? I don't want anybody to be hungry. And from what I can see in this footage, it's a bunch of crap. They're getting the food. May not be pretty, may not be deluxe, but I see no evidence, zero, of anyone malnourished. Sorry. I know what that looks like, and you know what that looks like. Common sense. Very evil. I think Zoran Mamdani is a very evil guy, actually. Very, very evil. They say he's going to run for the U.S. Senate against Chuck Schumer. We'll see about that one. We'll see. Chuck's days are up. Chuck's days are numbered. We'll see. We'll see. Bruce Blakeman could probably figure out a way to kick this guy out of City Hall. Legally, mind you, legally, I think it's in the Constitution. If he wants to have seminars on world affairs all day long, that's not his job, and I think there's a way to remedy that situation constitutionally. We will be right back.
Go.
This is, I think the news is getting a little bit tired of Iran or something like that. They're trying to play up what looks like to me a pretty straightforward shooting. Shooting is not necessarily, it's not always pretty, right? When the cops have to shoot somebody. It's really not pretty when a maniac with a knife starts lunging at people. I used to be kind of, I didn't worry about knives as much as I worried about guns. Bad guys having guns. I think the knife is even weirdly scarier. I don't know. There's something about a knife, and a lot of people are walking around with knives. So this maniac, I think it's in Madison, Wisconsin. Is that where? He's running all over the place with a big knife, scaring people. Cops show up. He jumps on his bike, falls off his bike. The cops come around him. He still has the knife, and he's cutting them and stuff like that. Now, we can't see everything. And people are insisting that this is somehow a bad shooting. There are 4 cops and 1 guy with a knife. It's very... maybe I watch too much online content, but I've seen people, it looks like they're punched, but they're just stabbed, and they bleed out. You get stabbed, you can walk away for about 10, 15 seconds, and then you collapse and you die. If you have a knife, and I don't care how many cops are on the are trying to take you down or trying to arrest you. If you have a knife, it's a deadly weapon, and you're trying to stab somebody, and actually one of the cops was cut, I think deadly force is kind of by textbook authorized, right? It's like not even a close call. Listen to this. You're going to see, well, you're not going to see anything, I understand, but there are 4 cops trying to subdue this guy. He is clearly, whoever's down there is not cooperating. He's squirming, he's kicking, he's fighting. And then you'll hear the gunshots from the cop. Cut, where do we got this? Cut 14, please. Cut 14. Got a knife. Bang, bang, bang. How about that one? That's it. All day long I hear about how horrible this is. I mean, I don't want anybody to be shot. I also don't want cops to be killed with a knife, and that could have happened here. It's all over the place. They're trying to turn this into George Floyd Part 2. Hey, how is that going, by the way, with Derek Chauvin still in jail? This is another thing shocking that everybody fell for, the George Floyd fiasco. Derek Chauvin is innocent, did not murder that man, did not kill that man. He had enough drugs in him to kill an elephant. He was using an authorized maneuver, the maximum restraint technique, or I think actually it was called the minimum restraint technique, the MRT. It's actually in the Minneapolis Police Patrol Guide. They lied like hell about it. Chief of police lied. The training officer lied. It's wild how you can get away with like lying on national television. There's so many people who could fact check you. I'm not talking about Snopes or CNN or any of those phony fact checkers, but the real fact checkers. Let's see here. We got another police shooting, Meriden, Connecticut. Do we want to let's see if we can find out anyone from this one? This is body camera, right? Cut 15, if you don't mind. Cut 15.
Shoot him! Shoot him!
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
He's missing.
Okay, they finally shot him. So what happened was a guy was beating his father to death with a baseball bat. I mean, it was terrible. You're a cop. You arrive at the scene. You have to assess everything first. You have to figure out what's going on, what's happening here. And that takes a moment, right? You just don't come blasting. Gosh, cops, damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the guy goes there and, okay, this man is killing this other individual, so he starts shooting. And you can hear the witnesses are getting impatient. They're urging the cop to shoot. They're across the street shooting through a window with their phone, filming. One more time on that one. Cut 15.
Shoot him! Shoot him! But he's missing. He's missing.
Yeah. He apparently he missed a couple of times. Boom, 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 boom. Or maybe the guy was just, sometimes you shoot these people, these crazy criminals. Maybe they have PCP inside them or angel dust, and they still, it doesn't stop them initially. That's why you need lethal force. They've studied this. They've tried this. Stun gun. A stun gun only does so much, right? There are big guys. You've seen it a million times. They'll rip the taser right out of them, and they'll keep going. Also, bean bags, they can work, but sometimes they don't. These high-powered pellets, they work on a lot of people. You might even say most people. But what about the people they don't work on? So you need, right there, we had fatal force, actual bullets, and it didn't seem to stop the guy who was wailing on somebody with a baseball bat. Man, it's dangerous out there. It's getting more dangerous, by the way, with all the weed, with all the dope that's being smoked. It is a gateway drug. It's also something that induces psychosis. I talked to a paramedic friend of mine, and I was just curious, what are you seeing the most of? What kind of calls are you getting? And he said, marijuana-induced psychosis, and people just raging around, destroying their apartment. Sometimes the cops get called as well. And they go into catatonic state. I totally understand this. The 2 or 3 times I've been high on weed, something similar happened to me. I became paranoid, scared, weird, thought my face was falling off, thought the people in the room were trying to kill me. The last time I did this was about 15, 16 years ago. Before that, it was about 10 years prior to that. And before that, I was in college 3 or 4 times in my life. Terrible stuff. And now that people they can eat it. They can eat it. You know how easy it is to overdose on edibles? Gummy bears, they taste great. One of those things. That's another problem. We legalized this stuff overnight. It's one thing that I'm a little bit upset with President Trump over. I I wish I could have gotten to him. Look, I got a couple of things that I'm really passionately pursuing, and the marijuana kind of happened without me paying attention. Marijuana is bad news, and other countries with their act together don't do it. Our enemies, our adversaries, our competitors. You start smoking weed in China, you start smoking weed in Russia, watch what happens. They send you to the gulag. I'm not saying we should do that here. But if we want to have a sharp, on-the-ball workforce, we're already falling behind with all the stupid distractions and now the weed and the booze. I'm told that people are drinking less, though. Have you heard that one? 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Also, the worst speech in the world, Tom Tillis. I gave him some unwelcome attention. Tom Tillis, senator from North Carolina, the Republican, outgoing, made a fool out of himself with that whiteboard. Also, I'm sorry, I've done a little bit more investigating, and Pete Hegseth has blown it again. Remember when Tom Cruise buzzed the tower in Top Gun, and he got chewed out by the CO, Tom Skerritt? Because Tom Cruise was a bit of a jerk. He realized that himself by the end of the movie. Like, man, I've been all stupid about this. Tom Skerritt's chewing him out. Can you imagine if the Secretary of Defense walked in the door and started chewing out Tom Skerritt? Right? That's what Pete Hegseth is doing, micromanaging the military to avoid the larger strategic issues that he's not very good at and to curry favor with voters. MAGA base, whatever you want to call it. I love MAGA, but he's playing to a portion of MAGA that I don't know if it is MAGA. It's kind of that woke right we've been talking about, those George Kent type characters. Stay the hell out of it, Pete. Be right back. Oh, I also learned this. Between him and his buddy there, his spokesman, they've run for office 4 times. 4 times unsuccessfully. You think he has something else on his mind other than the fighting men and women in uniform? Absolutely. Be right back. Just, it's tough, and you look at it firsthand, and it's wild. This is real. And I wonder what it's like for those men, who ordered this. It's a very unusual perspective, obviously. Never been in that situation. Never will be, really, but what is that like? Now, I know the families, I can say this, have been treated with great care and just overwhelming compassion, and their every need, I am confident, is being met during this difficult time. And, you look back, what that Joe Biden did, how could he show up with a bunch of Gold Star mothers and fathers after the Abbey Gate fiasco, those 13 Marines, soldiers, sailor, wiped out, totally unnecessary, shouldn't have happened. And he goes, this is supposed to be what he's good at, right? He is the consoler-in-chief, right? At times I thought that Joe Biden wanted to be a funeral director, something kind of... I happen to know a great funeral director, but there's something almost like he had a death fetish, Joe, talking about all the death that happened to him. And anyway, he opens his mouth and he turned all these Gold Star moms and dads off. Just unbelievable when you think about it. Listen to this. This is when we were getting out of Afghanistan and we lost 13, and he met with their families. Cut 1, if you don't mind. Cut 1.
He just talked about his son and said how much he knows, or he understands how do we feel, because he lost this kid and he didn't know how we feel, because he was there with his son when he passed. We didn't have that privilege. We receive our kids in a casket. I just feel so disrespectful by that man, because it was all about him.
The disrespect that we were shown with him checking his watch, not even looking at us, it was just total disrespect.
Someone screamed at President Biden, "Burn in hell."
That was my daughter. Yes, and she meant it.
The administration didn't seem to know our story. They didn't seem to know Nicole's name, our names.
People from the military certainly knew our story, Nicole's name, our names, and that was expressed to us in a way that felt very genuine and loving.
So I heard some people say, well, I mean, what do they want? I mean, they're in the military, bad things happen, Well, you have to remember that Joe Biden rushed and botched that withdrawal so he could be out by 9/11. That was his big thing. He thought that there would be political points for him somehow if they got out before September 11th, whatever. We also know from documents and elsewhere that he had been briefed on how bad the Afghan security forces were, that they would fold and run, and that they stunk. And he told the president of Afghanistan that he has to lie and say that's not the case. He said it out loud, said it right to the guy. We cannot say this. There's a transcript of it. No matter what the truth is, you got to say that these guys can do the job when he knew they couldn't. The military was raising all kinds of concerns. Everybody had concerns. Joe Biden had one. I want to be the guy who gets the troops out by 9/11. He was obsessed with it. And he thought he had, like a little bit of cover because, well, he's a Gold Star father himself. Now, he actually is not. He's not, because every time he went around saying that his son died in Iraq, he was lying. And he said it. It's unbelievable. This is stolen valor, everybody. Cut 2.
That's where my son died. I say this as a father of a man who won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal, and lost his life in Iraq. My son, who spent a year in Iraq and died, was a patriot.
He didn't die in Iraq. That's the whole thing. He didn't die. He didn't die in Iraq. He died in Bethesda, Maryland, at a hospital. How about that one? And then, remember, we were told what a decent man this is. Remember, who was that comedian from Saturday Night Live? The guy who's the head writer, Colin Jost. And he said, Mr. President, I know you're a good man. My uncle said so, and my dad really admires you. What kind of decent man looks to human beings and says something like this? You're the president of the United States. I assume you're going to talk to people. I assume that that's what's going to happen. Right? I don't think it's anything to brag about. Cut 3.
I know more world leaders than any one of you ever met in your whole goddamn life.
Yeah, you've got that. The contempt he had for the little people. You know what I keep hearing? Joe Biden would go shopping in Delaware, in Wilmington, elsewhere. Wouldn't pay for anything. Just go in and take stuff. Jill, notorious for this. Taking things because they're important. Joe Biden became a senator in 1972. And back then in 1972, senators, that was a license to steal, right? You were going to be a rich man no matter what, right? And his whole life, he'd been operating by 1972 standards. All right, let's forget him for a moment. Let's forget him. Something important happened this week. A little bit of a clue. And we talked to Blaine Holt, one of the smartest guys on the the Iran war situation. Everything about it he knows. And there's a little clue here about what's going to happen next. Listen carefully. This is General Raisin Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, getting questioned by Jack Reed, senator from Rhode Island. Happens to be a typical Democrat crazy person, but he is a Vietnam veteran. Listen carefully if you don't mind. Cut 5.
General Kane, these airstrikes have not yet deterred and defeated the Iranians. Do you think airstrikes alone will do that?
So I think academically, as you look across the totality of history, air power's got limits, and we always have to be mindful of those.
Air power has limits, and we always have to be mindful of those. So that's a little bit of a signal. As we know from history, there is a little thing in history says that you can't win with an air war. You can't win just with an air war. You got to send in the troops at some point, but those troops could very well be Iranian. All right? Iranian boots on the ground. That could happen. And remember, this has been something that the fake news, no one has bothered to really consider this. even though President Trump has said it out loud, that the Iranian people have an opportunity to do something about that government, right? There's a reason why we're not bombing, that place to Kingdom Come. We want the people to have a life when this is all over. There are good people in Iran. I'm not talking about the mullahs and the IRGC and the crazy people. We're talking about the millions and millions and millions of good people. And we're doing some stuff to help them behind the scenes that we don't know about, although we do know it's happening. President Trump, February 28th, the first day of the war, cut 6.
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond.
Let's see how you respond. And people are saying, well, what about it already? What about it already? Well, it takes time. We got to get them weapons. We've got to get them positioned. We got to soften up the regime. We've done that. Wouldn't this be amazing if the Iranians rise up and take care of this? It'd be the first time it's ever really happened, like pretty much organically, right? We've tried to bring this about before. The Iraqis didn't really want Saddam Hussein gone. That was something that we couldn't really get our head around. And in the end, we didn't even want him gone. We probably never should have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein. As much of a creep as he was, he kind of kept to himself. He minded his own business. He talked a big game, but what do we care? What do we care? So you got rid of him. You destroyed the neighborhood. You destroyed the country. Yeah, but we got rid of Saddam Hussein, bad guy. Well, there are a lot of bad people in the world, and sometimes we have these ceasefires, right? Ceasefires that go on for a while. Well, the ceasefires are a mechanism for us to do a bunch of things. Get more bombs, take a break, and allow things to happen in Iran, like those people to get their ducks in line in a row to throw over the government. And one of the ways we did that was with this MOU stuff, Memorandum of Understanding. Memorandum of Understanding. Very few people understand the MOU. Cut 7.
When we are finished.
In Iran, the art of the deal has turned into the art of disaster. Trump's so-called understanding is the culmination and representation of his ruinous strategy in Iran since day one.
I reread the Memorandum of Understanding before I was going to come on. It almost reads like a capitulation to Iran. The goals that we had, and they changed by week, were not met.
This feels to me like a high school AP foreign policy student is running the United States foreign policy.
That's Dan Goldman, by the way, who lost his own primary for re-election. Democrat Dan Goldman from Brooklyn lost by like 50 points. You really think President Trump has come all this way, right? Has learned all these things about negotiating. I mean, really getting things from people, your adversaries, things that you want, and winning every step of the way. Well, there's something going on here. That MOU was a delay tactic. All right. The boots on the ground. Hey, can we say something about boots on the ground? I don't understand why. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. I told you I never even heard that phrase, boots on the ground, until recently. I was in the military for a long time. I never heard anybody talk about boots on the ground. We would put our boots on and we would walk around on the ground, I guess, but we never had this boots on the ground situation. Boots on the ground, boots on the ground. You can't have any boots on the ground. Well, where the hell else are we going to put our feet? Cut 4.
The Pentagon is currently weighing whether or not to send ground troops, boots on the ground, for a takeover of Karg Island.
That means boots on the ground. A full invasion, a full plan is sea, air, land, and everything in between.
It means that there might need to be some boots on the ground in some capacity, but although Trump is saying that that's not the case, at least in this moment.
This idea about boots on the ground. Lots of administration officials said, no, there's no reason to talk about that. The president said he doesn't have yips about boots on the ground.
Well, they shouldn't have any yips, whatever they are. We don't have any boots on the ground. The only boots on the ground, unlike every president we've had for the past 80 years, the president has not ordered any significant deployment of boots on the ground. Venezuela, we were there for 20 minutes. That doesn't count. All right? Every single president, boots on the ground, except this one in term 2. Now, it may happen, but I think those boots are going to be the sneakers and shoes of the Iranian people, not boots. Be right back. Eight hundred 848 800-848-9222. How are we doing? I want to tell you again, I can't believe that they suspended these 2 cops for what appears, I think, to any common sense person, a justified shooting. Now, sometimes in certain jurisdictions, the cop automatically has to come off of duty just for a little while because, hey, when you kill somebody, it's a big deal. Even if it's justified, it's a big deal, and I understand you have to look into it. But the guy's got a knife. You can basically see the knife. One of the cops has already been stabbed, and it's only 3 shots from one cop. Listen to this one more time. Can you hear the shots? Cut 14. One, two, 3. 3 shots. The people who took this video were about 50 yards away. Okay, that's good. 50 yards away. If they were a little closer, like what happened in another part of the country, in Connecticut, a guy's getting wailed on by his own son, an adult son with a baseball bat. The guy is dying. In fact, he's being killed. And in this situation, the people can see the whole thing, and they start urging the cop to open fire. You don't hear that every day. But sometimes you do. Shoot him. The last time I heard that was, remember the chimpanzee who attacked the woman in the house? And they called 911, bring guns, shoot him. Here we go. It's kind of tough. Cut 15.
Show him! Well, he's missing. He's missing.
Oh, wasn't missing. He was shooting, but the guy kept hitting. Somebody asked me, why is it that firefighters are so popular and cops are not as popular? Firefighters, they put out the fire. What's not to like, right? Cops sometimes have to kill people. Cops show up and tell you that somebody close to you is dead. You see cops sometimes where there's bad news. So it's always been kind of it's more challenging. I think the job is. Yeah, a little bit more challenging. And they have to interact with the community in a way that isn't always the sweetest. They're heroes, though, just like the firefighters. They're heroes. And to see this Mamdani character just strip away their authority and pretend that everything is normal. It's not. Crime has never been worse in New York City. Never been worse. I have never seen this kind of disrespect, this kind of filth, especially in Times Square. You're coming to New York from somewhere else, stay clear of the center of the city. Used to be the most, for a while in the 70s, it was terrible, porno theaters and that kind of thing. Then it got cleaned up, and for about 25 years, everything was great until a 34-year-old punk who never had a job showed up. Zoran with an H for some reason.
Don't get walking. You'll get lost. Hey. Walking will get lost.
What are you going to leave there?
The watch. I found it in the penguin game.
You found it where?
In a penguin game.
What is it again?
A penguin game.
And what did you find there?
A pebble.
Oh, a nice pebble?
Yeah.
Why did you like that pebble so much?
She found it. Because I found it.
Is it a nice pebble?
Yes.
What color is the pebble?
We don't want freckles on your nose.
Gray.
It's a gray little rock she found. We're dropping the children off at their little special day camp. That was Madeline. She's 4. Now, she's got that baby tone of voice, but she always speaks in complete sentences. Subject, verb, agreement. She's actually quite articulate, quite eloquent. And she found a rock, and there was some controversy about should she bring the rock into day camp, and she was going to leave it in her cup in the back of the car where she has her little car seat. Anyway, the pebble. Can you imagine? I remember being fascinated by a pebble. However, my pebbles back in the day had to have like googly eyes glued to them, right? It wasn't just you couldn't just have a pebble on its own. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Oil prices surge. All right, we kind of knew that was going to happen. We knew that's going to happen. They go up, they go down. They go up, they go down. Gas prices are still $1.50 less than their all-time high under Joe Biden in the summer of 2020. How about that one? I'm sorry, 2022. 2022, which was the run-up to the midterm elections. I know people are getting very pessimistic and nervous about the midterms, in part because I'm always seeing a constant deluge of fake news headlines about how freaked out Republicans are about the war, about Trump, about, oh my God, he never should have made that speech about the election. Everything's going to hell. Just look at what the Democrats are offering, right? They're offering socialism. And those who aren't offering socialism are afraid to condemn those who are. They're afraid to condemn anti-Semitism, all right? They believe all this woke crap. They believe in the drag time story hour for children. They believe in the gender reassignment. They are wetting their pants about a war that is not even 5 months old, okay? That is under control. These are the same people, the same party that really just sat there and watched Iraq and sat there and watched Afghanistan. How's it going, General? Oh, the war is going very well at this point. We see a continued assumption of responsibility by the Afghan and Iraqi security forces, and we project that within the next 3 to 4 quarterly time lengths, we will have no, you guys suck. You guys suck, and you are lying every step of the way. And Democrats just sat there, Republicans too, in part because it was a debacle in that Republicans and Democrats voted for that stuff. They voted for that stuff. Now, granted, we had to go into Afghanistan. I have no problem with going into Afghanistan, but we should have done it more decisively. We should have done it more with more lethality. More lethality, as Pete Hegseth might say. I am going to do a video about him and that stupid flyby that the Blue Angels did, and he thinks it's cool. He thinks it's cool. So you go ahead and say, no, don't suspend him. Don't do anything that a squadron commander is supposed to do. I'm the Secretary of Defense. I'm going to get involved. What else do we have here? A little bit more on the Saudi situation, the nuclear deal. Look, I don't know what to tell you. Saudis are strange people. They're very rich. They're generally supportive of us and our efforts in the Middle East. They're very, they're somewhat fanatical, but somewhat materialistic at the same time. Now, President Trump said today that a nuclear agreement already signed with Saudi Arabia was subject to the kingdom joining the Abraham Accords, which would establish diplomatic relations with Israel. Time says the new requirement could create a major roadblock because Saudi officials have long insisted they would not recognize Israel without a pathway toward a Palestinian state. The deal has faced intense criticism over the possibility that the Saudis could enrich their own nuclear material, but the president asserted that the deal would not allow it. I think what's really going on here is our friend Brett Eagleson. He said it. He said he wanted the information about those dudes who may have facilitated the attack on our country on September 11, 2001. The Saudis knew about it. There was a Saudi intelligence officer conducting surveillance missions before September 11th, actually in 1999, taking video of our Capitol, casing the joint, saying weird, sinister stuff like this is where the evil ones meet, and this is where the evil ones will die. Ula Umadayo, who's still alive and lives in Saudi Arabia. The 9/11 families want this guy brought to justice, or at least bring him in for questioning. All right? I think that's reasonable. Hey, one other thing, because this is getting some pickup. When Mamdani and others talk about genocide, the genocide against Palestinians in Gaza, genocide, 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 they love saying it, right? I don't know if they know what that word means. That is like the systemic and organized killing of a group based on their being part of that group. You're Jew, we're going to kill you, right? That's happened in the Holocaust. We saw it. We've seen the footage. You've seen walking skeletons, for crying out loud. You've seen stacks of corpses. You've seen the gas chambers. You've seen the film when the Allied forces liberated those concentration camps. We know what genocide looks like. I know that what's happening in Gaza, a place where I've been, by the way. I've actually been to Gaza. Had one hell of an experience. It's something I don't want to talk about right now. It was not good. But I see these pictures from Gaza, and I've been watching ever since. Now, you say, well, you're just seeing pictures. Yeah, well, that's kind of important, right? That's kind of important. That's a huge chunk of the evidence. Show me where the genocide is. They can't. That's why they keep making it up and they keep lying. And now they're so addicted to the lies, especially the dominant media. They don't even realize it when the pictures they're showing don't match what they're saying. This is remarkable. It's ABC fake news. The same people who brings you David Muir at night, Plastic Man, and Lindsay Davis on the weekends, the It Girl. They're anchoring this show, and they throw to a reporter who's over there in Gaza, and they profile what I'll say is a beautiful, adorable little 3-year-old girl. She looks happy. She looks healthy. Granted, she probably needs a bath, but, you know, kids love getting dirty. What was that thing? Bubble bath, Mr. Bubble, makes getting clean almost as much fun as getting dirty. She looks like she's having fun. She's being a little kid. Except when her parents apparently make her go on very peculiar errands at the age of 3. Listen to this, okay? Picture the most adorable little kid walking around with a great big gigantic pot, okay? Cut 13.
Armed with a pot the size of her head, 3-year-old Wad Qasim walks a now familiar route along the melee of makeshift tents where she's been living for the past 2 years to get food for her family.
هاي اللي براس الصغير يروح على المية تيجي مثلا التكية بابا اجت التكية بتيجي تاخذ الطنجرة بتجري.
Wad, standing tall with her pot, waits among the chaos of the crowd, while other members of her family go to other sites to increase their chances of getting food. Growing impatient by each minute, she stares into the pot, the reflection of the sun briefly blinding her eyes. This scene still common in Gaza, even 9 months after the US brokered a ceasefire.
لا الحياة يا أخي ما تحسنت بعد وقف إطلاق النار.
Wad's family among the 1.6 million people in Gaza who rely on food handouts like these, according to the UN. On this day, no member of the family was able to
Stop
get
for
food.
a second. They got a 3-year-old kid in the middle of about a couple of dozen other people, adults. Okay, I don't know why they have a 3-year-old kid there, but she's 3 with a pot. Okay, now listen to what happens.
Wad becomes lost in the crowd despite her efforts. Our producer intervenes on the ground, and a worker, out of compassion, gave food to Wad. She successfully secured a meal for her family, bringing back home a pot full of stew to her relatives. 12 of them live here in this tent. And though life can be grueling, the family is still grateful to share a meal in each other's company.
All right, stop. Beautiful little girl. She's 3. She's the smallest one in the family. She comes with this big pot of food that is, I mean, like, it's bigger than her. And she goes in, she puts the pot down before her mother, who is healthy and about 45 years old, her sister, who looks like she's about 15, another sister looks like she's, I don't know, 12, right? They sent the littlest kid, the 3-year-old, to get the food. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? For a photo op. For a photo op, to make the situation look somehow pathetic, which it is kind of pathetic. Can you imagine? I have a 3-year-old, sending her to the store, sending her out to, actually, she's 4. You couldn't send her anywhere to get anything. Send her down the hall to get her teddy bear at best. Send her down to the middle of Gaza City with a pot. Go get some food for your family, big sister, mom, dad, and the rest. And then these other people, I used to really like them. I used to really like UNICEF. I had that little orange box. It was very cute, the orange box. And we'd shop that way. We'd trick or treat that way. It was fun. I liked it. I like raising money for the kids with the UNICEF orange box. Give me that UNICEF guy, Carlos, if you would. Right around there. You got it? Hit it, please.
We've been going around the market for a bit now and asking about the prices and how people are coping with the situation. As you could see, some items are in the market. The ceasefire had given a glimpse of hope of access to aid and commercial goods. But unfortunately, we're still far from what is needed. The problem is the prices. The prices are really high for anyone to get food for their families.
All right, stop.
Wallahi.
Grocery prices are high here too, pal. And what's happening behind him are well-fed people walking around. Life looks pretty normal there. It doesn't match with what they're showing us. Let's see here. 800-848-9222. Yes, Clifford, how are you?
Very good, sir. So I've been in Iraq 2003, 4, 2009, 10, and there's a lot of reasons why we went in. The military had a secondary reason that never is broadcast. Has to do with every single war we've ever fought, we opened a second front. And that's one of the main reasons why the military wanted to be there. It was messed up by Bremer, by the way, who had the de-Ba'athification policy. The Iraqi people revolted against the leader and actually were in the street tearing down the statues of Saddam. They didn't want Saddam. And they were on our side until we did a de-Ba'athification policy. That was Bremer who did that.
Well, a couple of real quick things. First of all, 2, 3, 4, you say 9 and 10. That's a long time over there. No, I would have to disagree with you. I mean, Paul Bremer was a disaster, and so was de-Ba'athification. But it was really unclear about the Saddam Hussein loyalty. They tore down that statue. You know who tore down that statue? That was a psyop. You ever see that? You ever look at that footage? That was a psyop. That was engineered ahead of time. You understand that? That was fake.
I'll have to disagree with you there as well.
Yeah, I know. I've looked at this. I've studied it. That was we have information operations. Those people, that was not genuine. That was engineered by us. It's clever. I'm not, faulting us for it. But we did not factor that in. He's a son of a bitch, but he's our son of a bitch. There was a lot of that in Iraq. He wasn't despised as we wanted him to be. What was the other front? I don't understand the other front.
I can bring to bear, but that was well.
No, what is the other front you're talking about, and why were you there so much?
2 times, like bookends, 2003, 4, 2009, 10. And the second front is Afghanistan. What we did is they set up, in essence, you bring the people to play in your battlefield instead of the other way around.
This crap. I heard this before. We can fight them. We'll fight them over there instead of fighting them here. That stuff. Is that what you're saying?
You fight Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
You want them to fight.
No, I don't subscribe to that. I also don't subscribe to lying to the American people. All right? And they were still conducting terror operations all over the world. It was a great big fiasco, totally unnecessary, and we created a hell of a lot of enemies. And take a look at that Firdos Square thing. If they were that fed up with Saddam Hussein, we would not have had that insurgency that we had to deal with for so long. De-Ba'athification definitely was a part of it. And Paul Bremer was a disgrace. Never should have had that job. You ever meet him, by the way?
Yes.
Weird little guy, right? Weird little guy.
Yeah, it seemed like he wanted to have the security force to protect him from us.
Yeah, he enjoyed being like a viceroy. He enjoyed the perks of power. Finally, were you in the military? Were you a contractor? What?
I was everything over there.
Okay. All right. You were everything. All right. Listen, I got to go, Cliff. Stay in touch. We'll be right back. over my social media, I see these one-man drones, like a drone that you can fly. Have you seen these things? At first, I thought it was AI. I'm told it's not AI. You sit in a little cockpit. It kind of looks like, what is this thing? What does it look like? It's, well, it looks like a drone with a little seat in the middle and a little windshield. And I see people flying it around their backyards. No one's really going particularly high or fast. They're just kind of taking off and turning around and going around the backyard. I guess they're still testing. But boy, oh boy, do I want one of these things. The thing about the drone, if we get and fly them as people, flying them is going to be a hell of a lot simpler than a helicopter. Oh, by the way, did you hear? It was one of the most heartbreaking stories. A helicopter was flying around New York City a year ago, and it was a tourist helicopter. And it was February, I think, of last year, 2025, cold day, and this wonderful family from Spain on a great big vacation / business trip for the father. They went on a helicopter ride around Manhattan. This is something I've done a bunch. I did it when I was a kid. I've done it as an adult. I don't think I'm going to do it ever again. I don't think you're going to find me on an old rickety helicopter. I flew enough of those in the military. I should have learned my lesson then. I don't know. They're not as safe as fixed wing. They're just not as safe as fixed wing. But anyway, this family, and they took a picture just before getting on the helicopter, and that's what really, they're all so happy, and they're in their winter clothes, and they have this little like special life preservers that you have to wear. And what really gets me are the kids, how excited they are. And I know that feeling. You're getting on an airplane, on an aircraft, a helicopter. It's unique. Most people never get to fly on a helicopter, let alone do it as a kid. It's very unique. And they're excited, and they're on the helipad, and they're smiling, and it's like the ultimate moment of joy. And in about 10 minutes, they're all going to be dead. Oh, it really... there's a bird strike. That's how it happened. The pilot was killed as well. And I heard a lot of murmuring, and nobody knows what happens, right? At first, there are theories. And sometimes the theories, because it's convenient, they'll start blaming the pilot right away. It's easy to blame the pilot. Because if the pilot's at fault, well, everybody else can breathe easy. Everybody else can breathe easy. Because, well, maintenance is okay. The manufacturer is okay. No, the pilot must have screwed something up. Well, it looks like there was a bird strike. And I haven't heard of too many helicopter bird strikes, but they do happen. And when they do happen, they can be catastrophic. And they found birds, and there's reason to believe that the bird strike led to the mishap. Now, as beautiful as this family is, and I just got choked up there about their death, I do believe, and I have to think more about this. I am Christian, and I believe that when you die, you go to heaven. I do believe that. And, some people say, well, if you don't accept Christ, and I know that, it says it in the Bible. Well, I went a little bit deeper on that, and I've spoken to some Christians who know more about the Bible than probably I'll ever know. And they say that no matter your faith, when you die, you see Jesus, and he's so beautiful, and it's so captivating, and it's so wonderful, and it's so joyful and peaceful and loving that no one would go in another direction. No one. Isn't that kind of amazing? That's in Matthew. It's a little bit different. Some read it, but I think that's the way. Well then, Rand Paul. Thanks a lot, Rand. I like that guy. I do. Libertarian, Republican. He's I always feel like he's doing things on the merits. He's not doing he's doing things from a a place of conviction. He really believes what he says. I don't like what he says sometimes. I think he's wrong, but at least he believes what he says. And his pessimistic outlook on Iran and how everything is worse than it was, I just don't see how anybody can say that with the nuclear degraded. I have a headline here from 2020 that says that Iran is 3 months away from getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, let's say that was correct. That means they probably have one by now. How can we just, what are we waiting for? We had to do it. I can't believe that nobody, and I mean nobody, the last military thing that we did on Iran was the failed rescue mission. The failed rescue mission when we tried to get those Iranian hostages out. That's the last time. It's the last time. How about that one? Huh? The failed mission. No wonder why these people have been thumbing their nose at us. So we got the nuclear. It's been totally degraded. Now I know these pot shots that they're taking. They are literally pot shots. They're pot shots. They're small. And as we know from Blaine Holt, the holdup at the Strait of Hormuz is artificial. It's not fear of the Iranians. It's this game that the global elites are playing on Trump. There's an insurance company, and they're based in a place called the City of London. That's different from London. All right, there's London, Greater London, and then there's the City of London. It's kind of like Wall Street, the financial district. They call that the City of London. It's a very small area. It's full of big banks and the elites, and they are... That's when Obama hangs out in London, he goes to the City of London. It's globalist central. And this Lloyd's of London, they're playing a great big game with us, the United States. This is payback for, I don't know, President Trump embarrassing them, President Trump telling them it's time to stand up for your commitments to NATO. You can't just throw money at Ukraine without throwing money at NATO. You got to remember NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. You guys are members, and if you don't pay up, we're going to leave. So there's a lot of things going on that I don't think are understood, certainly not discussed publicly. I'm no wizard, but I've been talking to Blaine Holt, and that's where I'm getting my insight. And that man has not been wrong about one thing when it comes to this war. He hasn't been wrong about one thing when it comes to this conflict that started all the way back in February. And one more thing. 4 soldiers is 4 soldiers too many. But at the same time, these are acceptable losses. I am so sorry to say that. I am so sorry, but it's true. You have to factor that in. Anytime you start moving troops and bombs and you start tangling with Iran, there are going to be people who die. This is acceptable. It's not acceptable if we lose 50,000, but if we lose a dozen or two, hey, I was in a position once myself where I could have been one of those, right? Had my close call, or 2 or 3 or 4. Thank God I made it out. Not everybody I was with made it out. Both as a Marine and as a civilian journalist, I know what it's like when people close to you die. And I mean literally close to you. I mean, like that guy right over there is about to die and he gets killed. But I can, this is part of it. This is part of what makes military service so revered. And those who lose loved ones must be respected. One more time, it still astonishes me. You know, everything is backwards. When they say the war is going poorly, the war is going well. When they say that Joe Biden is a man of integrity and empathy, he's not. It's the opposite. When they say that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, he is the savior of democracy. I mean, how hard do you have to try to alienate and offend Gold Star families, right? Gold Star families, what is that? That's the those who lose sons and daughters in war. And prior to the casualties we're seeing now, We had 13 Marines, soldiers, sailors, I believe an airman as well, wiped out at Abbey Gate as we were hastily withdrawing from Afghanistan, a totally botched operation done so Joe Biden could say we're out of here by September 11th. That was his big thing. He had to have the troops out by September 11th. Kind, decent man. Listen to what he did to these families. Cut one, please. Cut one. The Gold Star moms.
He just talked about his son and said how much he knows or he understands how do we feel because he lost his kid and he didn't know how we feel because he was there with his son when he passed. We didn't have that privilege. We receive our kids in a casket. I just feel so disrespectful by that man because it was all about him.
The disrespect that we were shown with him checking his watch, not even looking at us, it was just total disrespect.
Someone screamed at President Biden, burn in hell.
That was my daughter. Yes, and she meant it.
The administration didn't seem to know our story. They didn't seem to know Nicole's name, our names. People from the military certainly knew our story, Nicole's name, our names, and that was expressed to us in a way that felt very genuine and loving.
That last mother is talking about Nicole Gee, G-E-E, an amazing woman. One of her the last photograph I think ever taken of her, she's cradling a beautiful baby. And she was on social media saying how much she loved her job. Marines cradling a baby was kind of a beautiful thing in the middle of a war zone, a chaotic one. It didn't have to be so chaotic. You know, we were there for 20 years. Why the hell did we have to get out in that fashion? And we have paid such a price for that. Continued. It's President Trump has reversed a lot of it, but that was permanent damage to our prestige, our brand, how they see us, our effectiveness, our commitment. We lost so much. We haven't fully recovered. A couple of other things. J.D. Vance is in the news. He's always in the news, kind of, right? Not to the extent that Donald Trump is, but a real betrayal. A Secret Service agent. You know, it's tough when you're in the Secret Service. A lot of these guys, it's a relentless schedule, but when you're working, you don't have as much to do as you probably would think, right? A lot of it is hanging around, and a lot of it, the challenge is staying vigilant when you're standing in a hallway outside of a hotel room for 6 hours. How do you stay vigilant? Well, I have an idea. One way you do that is every day before you start your shift, they make you watch the assassination videos and attempted assassination videos from the past couple of decades. From John F. Kennedy to the shots that were taken at Gerald Ford, to Ronald Reagan outside that Hilton Hotel, to Butler, Pennsylvania, and the Washington Hilton. Huh? How about that? That's what you do. You keep them on guard. You think, you know what? This could go from 0 to light speed in a nanosecond, and you got to be ready. But unfortunately, that's not the mindset over there. And there's a mindset of entitlement, right? And complaining. The Secret Service, too many of them are a bunch of complainers, and they complain about having to work. They complain about having to show up. And one of the Secret Service members on J.D. Vance's detail complained to the Washington Post, "Oh, I got to work too much. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, we have to take J.D. Vance's son to a golf lesson. Oh, well, part of it is this. You know, he can't just take his son to a regular golf lesson. And I know they chose golf, not basketball, right? They want to make J.D. Vance look privileged and out of touch somehow. Golf isn't that fancy anymore. He took a helicopter to get a golf lesson. Everybody ran with that headline, except if you look in the fine print, oh, wait a second, there was no flight for a golf lesson. It was called off because of weather. In other words, it never happened. Anyway, they suspended somebody for this, and they're investigating. And I feel very bad for anybody who has to deal with the Secret Service on a daily basis. I'm sorry. Some of these guys, they grow to resent those they have to protect, those they are sworn to protect and defend. You know, no man is a hero in the eyes of their butler, right? They start to sour on the people, and they eavesdrop on them, and they gossip about them. It's a tough, tough position to be in. Now, here's Marco Rubio, said to be a rival of J.D. Vance's. You know, they're always trying to pit these two together. I think they're both fantastic. We'll see how it works out. I have this notion, this idea that it's going to be a Vance-Marco ticket. And I don't know who's at the top. Could be Marco, could be J.D., could be J.D., could be Marco. Listen to Marco Rubio respond to some of this media tomfoolery about the rivalry. Go ahead, Carlos.
Prominent Republicans who have said they want you to take over the Iran negotiations. They trust you. They think that you will prioritize Israel's interests, and they're attacking Vice President Vance.
Who are these prominent Republicans?
Senator Shee, the Wall Street Journal opinion page. There are people.
Well, that's not Republican. That's a newspaper.
Well, you're
a troublemaker with these questions.
It leans right.
No. Look, guys, listen. Here's the bottom line. You know who the lead negotiator is? His name is Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States. That's who dictates our policy. He has a team of people that work together on this. We all have a role to play, depending on what the topic is. We have very good negotiators in Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. We have the Vice President of the United States, which is the second highest ranking official, which tells you how the importance we've given this file. Obviously, I have a role to play. The Department of War has had a role to play. That's how we approach it. This doesn't, I mean, it's a combined effort, and it always should be.
Do you wish people didn't endorse you to take over the talks yourself?
I mean, you're telling me about that, but that's not how our system works. That's not how this administration works. It starts at the top. The president is in charge, and he has a team of people that provide counsel and provide advice, but ultimately whose job it is to execute on the president's directive. We have a great team that works very well together. On that topic, we work well together on a number of topics. We work together as a team on Lebanon. We've worked together as a team on Venezuela. We've worked together as a team on the Thailand-Cambodia peace agreement that was put together. We've worked together as a team. We have a really good core team that works on foreign policy and national security. And oftentimes it's a multi-agency effort because there's a role for Treasury to play. Sometimes there's a role for energy to play. That's how these things work. It's not one person. It's all these different elements of our government that have to work in conjunction and in concert to execute on the president's directive and on the direction that he's giving us.
Well, makes sense to me. There's a weariness to Marco Rubio. You know, he's heard it all before. You can't get him. You can't stump him. You can't trick him. There's an expertise, a brilliance, and just a confidence that comes with experience and knowledge and intelligence. It's all there. It's all there. Imagine doing something, though, really, really hard, and you got the media nitpicking every step of the way and reporting rumors and, you know, somebody said something anonymously about you. I liken it to, what's the hardest thing most people have to do? Buying a house, maybe, or planning a wedding. I'm talking about logistically, all right? The biggest logistical pain that everybody can relate to might be buying a house or an apartment or throwing a wedding. And imagine during that time, you got a bunch of anonymous sources and people trying to screw with you, saying stuff on social media and, you know, microphones being thrust in your face while you're trying to do this very tricky thing. Not saying they shouldn't be doing that. They have to do it. It's a kind of a necessary, I don't want to say necessary evil. It's just life. You know, that's the way it is. 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. White House Correspondents' Dinner is tomorrow night, rescheduled after the failed assassination attempt. I think it's in the same place, the Hinckley Hilton, they call it. The Hinckley Hilton. I worry about his safety still. You know, you thought they would have gotten a lot better after Butler, and they didn't. You think they would have gotten a lot better after what happened a couple of weeks ago at the Hinckley Hilton. Maybe they have. Be right back. Tomorrow night, President Trump will give a speech at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. These speeches are traditionally funny, and he is hilarious at such occasions. The Al Smith Dinner. I'm going to play a huge chunk from the 2024 Al Smith Dinner. It was possibly one of the most delightful things I've ever seen. It was just so wonderful and spot on. Let's see here. Let's say hello to Lauren. And where are you? Hi, Lauren.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
You know, Greg, Marco Rubio, we'd be very well served by him. He's knowledgeable, he's experienced, and he's so articulate. And yeah, you're right. He cannot be flustered. He just has it all. That's my belief. So I think
one little thing, though, doesn't he look a little? He just looks young. He doesn't look. Sometimes I have a hard time seeing him as president. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Greg, you look young too, but you fall
I'm
into all
not.
those
I'm not. Hey,
categories.
listen. I thank you. I'm not presidential timber anymore. It's okay. I can live with that. I don't know. There's another little thing that nags at me a bit. He's a career politician. You know, he's been asking people to like him since he's 26 years old. You know what I mean?
I think he's proved himself. I really think he's proved himself.
You know what? Then again, what the hell do we really know? You know what I mean? I see him. He's good at the microphone. He's good at speaking. You know what somebody told me? Somebody told me he's kind of lazy. Great talker, but doesn't work that hard. You know what? Who knows? Who knows? You know, you don't really know somebody until you work with them or live with them. I wonder. Look, perfectly honorable guy, seems very able. And by the way, being president isn't exactly like who is the best person in the country most of the time. You know, it's not exactly often an idea contest. Sometimes it's looks, sometimes it's the moment, sometimes we really need a woman, all that crap. I just have a few reservations about him. Fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. And also, you know, how we can't believe everything everybody says because they could have ulterior motives. So, but anyway. So, Greg, Golda Meir, you mentioned what she said. What a woman of wisdom. She said, until the Palestinians love their children more than they hate the Jews, we will never have peace on earth.
And she also knew that Joe Biden was a dimwit. Thank you, Lauren. All the best. You know, you don't have to give President Trump a script that's been worked on by a bunch of comedians for him to be funny. He's hilarious. He's witty. He's interesting. He's so blunt, and in a culture that is as uptight as ours, everybody's so uptight. You notice that, right? He is relaxed. He is relaxed, and I heard him talk about this. If you think about things too much, especially something you got to do like a speech or a meeting or whatever, you'll choke, and you can kind of see it in his demeanor. You know what I mean? He is determined and focused, but also relaxed at the same time. It's hard to be determined and focused and relaxed at the same time, but he pulls that off. But this is one of those moments where he the mission is to be funny. It's the Al Smith Dinner, which I go to pretty much almost, I usually go to it. It's a wonderful thing. Catholic Charities and Cardinal Dolan and the rest. It's just wonderful. And in major presidential election years, traditionally both candidates show up, major party candidates. And this was 2024. Kamala just did a cheap video that I thought wasn't half bad, to be honest, but President Trump's speech was a masterclass. All right, it's just now one visual you got to take in here. He's in white tie, right? Very formal, and a lot of people are on the dais with him, including my dad, Ray Kelly, former police commissioner. Chuck Schumer is sitting right next to him, and he's all like serious and glum. Anyway, you ready? Okay, go ahead, hit it. The Al Smith Dinner featuring President Trump. He's going to be giving another speech designed to be funny tomorrow night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, but I thought we'd listen to this. Go ahead.
By the way, now it's time for the main event. Okay? Let's get ready to rumble. This is also the only part of the show that you will see on Fox News.
It's Jim Gaffigan, the comedian, by the way.
Shortly, I will introduce President Trump, who will likely talk about how Vice President Harris's absence proves that she hates Catholics, Americans, and babies. Then CNN and MSNBC will say President Trump went too far, and Elon Musk and Fox News will say he was pitch perfect. You know, during the first and only debate, President Trump talked about migrants taking cats and eating them. You know, if you're keeping track at home, this is the second time grabbing a kitty has been part of a campaign issue.
Jim Gaffigan.
We talked about leaving that out.
I was going to leave that out. But here's the thing that's so amazing about Donald Trump. It is impossible to not have a strong opinion about President Trump. You either think he is endearingly outspoken and brash, or you think he's a sociopath, and you'd like to be his running mate.
All right.
Donald Trump and I have a lot in common. We both have 5 children. We both have a lush mane of golden hair. And we both try to travel as much as possible to get away from our families. President Trump, before I invite you up here to the podium, I want you to know if you are reelected, I always liked you. And I'm not saying that because I don't want to be sent to a labor camp. Well, I guess that's the reason, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to bring up a man who loves New York City. He is the Republican nominee and the 45th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, everybody. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor. And they told me under no circumstances are you allowed to use a teleprompter. And I got up here and I see this is beautiful teleprompter. So here I am. But it is a tremendous thing. It's a tremendous dinner. I've come here with my father. So it was 3 times, but it was also many times before that. A long time ago, and it's a very special dinner, and you've done a fantastic job, Cardinal. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I'd like to thank Your Eminence very much, and members of the clergy, so many people I know. Speaker of the House Johnson, what a job you're doing. He's done a great job. Senator Schumer, good. Yeah, I supported him. I don't know. He used to say that's true, and now I'm not sure he would. But I gave him his first check from an office in Beach Haven, and I was very proud of it. I don't know about lately. No, I was. It was his first check. He was running, and I said, he's a good man. Senator Gillibrand, thank you very much. Thank you very much for working hard. Governor Hochul, wherever you may be up, this is a big day, that's right. Where is the governor? Good job. It's not an easy one, is it? But you're doing all right. We have to get a little money from the federal government, I have to tell you. It's about time. It's about time. Mayor Adams, good luck with everything. They went after you. They went after you, Mayor. Yeah, boy, I do that. 9.5 months ago, I said, he just said something about the administration. He's going to be indicted any moment. And guess what happened? But you're going to win. I think you're going to win. I know you're going to win. So good luck. Good luck. I don't like what they do. I don't like what they do. And also distinguished, got so many friends up here. It's great. A lot of great friends. Some of my best friends. And you are right. They are distinguished and they are wealthy for the most part. A couple are having a hard time, but they're going to get over it. I also want to thank my very beautiful wife, and thank you for mentioning, but can you believe this? She did a book, and it's a really good book, and she worked hard on it, and it just became number one on the New York Times list, so I think that's okay. That's not an easy thing to do, especially when your name is Trump and you're on the New York Times list. That must be selling like hotcakes. But thank you for mentioning. I appreciate it. Good job you did. It's a true pleasure to be with you this evening. Amazing pleasure. And these days it's really a pleasure anywhere in New York without a subpoena for my appearance. Anytime I don't get a subpoena, I'm very happy. They've gone after me, Mr. Mayor. You're peanuts compared to what they've done to me. And you're going to be okay. But I have to be careful, however, to understand that this will be the first time in the history of this event where jokes will be fact-checked, and they will be. And they will be. It's been a long tradition for both Democrat and Republican candidates for President of the United States to attend this dinner. Always it's a rule. You got to go to the dinner. You got to do it. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen to you from up there. You can't do what I just saw on that screen. But my opponent feels like she does not have to be here, which is deeply disrespectful to the event and in particular to our great Catholic community. Very disrespectful. The last Democrat not to attend this important event was Walter Mondale, and it did not go very well for him. He lost 49 states and he won one, Minnesota. So I said, there's no way I'm missing it. Actually, it was not easy for me to get here tonight. God, I wasn't going to miss this thing, no matter, I didn't care. I wasn't going to miss it. But that's true, Walter Mondale, 49 and 1. He was expected to do well, and it didn't work out. It shows you there is a God. I mean, for those people that are questioning it. I understand the real reason that she's not here is she's hunting with her running mate, spending a lot of time hunting. In any event, it's a weird. You know the word weird. They call me weird. They call J.D. weird. We're very solid people. This guy is calling us weird, but this was weird that the Democrat candidate is not here and with us tonight. I want to also congratulate somebody's going to make us all healthy. RFK Jr., we love you. I don't see him. He's campaigning all over the place. He's campaigning. You're all over. Hello, you both. Nice to see you both. You're doing a good job. He's a great guy, too. He really is. He's going to make us a healthier place. We're going to let him go wild for a little while. Then I'm going to have to maybe rein him back. Because he's got some pretty wild ideas, but most of them are really good, I think. He's a good man, and he believes the environment, the healthy people. He wants healthy people. He wants healthy food, and he's going to do it. He's going to have a big chance to do it because we do need that. I would not have missed the Al Smith dinner for anything in the world. I still remember coming here as a very young guy with my father, Fred. He was a great guy, my father. He was a tough cookie, but he had a very big heart. Anytime we'd walk down the street, and you don't see it too much anymore, there'd be people standing with tin cans, and he would always take out $100 and put it in that can. And I always thought it was beautiful. And frankly, I even think more so now it was beautiful, because nowadays you don't see it so much. But I miss him, and we used to come here very religiously. And a great New York tradition has been born 79 years ago. It was born 79 years ago, and there are some people that were here for almost that length. I know many of them, and it's not a pretty picture. It's not a pretty picture. The two candidates for president are supposed to exchange good-natured barbs, and you know we get along very well. I didn't like Biden very much, and now I like him quite a bit. You know, and now I say that she's much worse than him. He was a much better candidate than her, actually. And when we hopefully win, dispose of her, I like her a lot, but right now I can't stand her. It's true. I can't stand her. I've never liked people that I was competing against. When you do, a lot of bad things happen. And we are doing well. By the way, the votes are starting to come in. You got to get out and vote. And Catholics, you got to vote for me. Just remember. You better remember I'm here. And she's not. I could have done that too. But you do something that's incredible. The Catholic Church, you're helping the poor, educating children, and supporting the vulnerable. But if you really wanted Vice President Harris to accept your invitation, I guess you should have told her the funds were going to bail out the looters and rioters in Minneapolis, and she would have been here, guaranteed she would have been here. Guaranteed.
They're booing. That's they're booing him. Okay, all right, stop. I was in the room. We gotta go to a break. But yeah, there was some pushback in the room. That whistling, but it was awesome. It was awesome. You can find it on YouTube. It's about a half hour long, and or just watch tomorrow night because that's going to be fresh material and right out of the can't say the front page anymore. Right out of your Twitter feed. Right, all very very topical. That's the best. That's the best kind of stuff for a moment like that. Okay, 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. Right, hello. It kind of feels like Friday a little bit for some reason. I don't know why that is. We're on August is next week. August is one of the most glorious months, possibly my favorite month, right outside of Christmas. I don't know. Good things tend to happen to me in August. It's a track record for some reason. And it's still summertime, and no one's really working all that hard. It's just something beautiful about it. I don't know what the hell it is, but all right. With that, I am going to pack things up here. Oops, we got today's the day. Barbara, welcome back.
Hi, Greg. I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad that you're enjoying the beautiful day. It's beautiful here in Ohio where I am right now, too. And thank you for playing the clip of Donald Trump at the dinner. It was marvelous, and it reminded me of his appearance yesterday in Marietta. That was such an example of his leadership, of his relatability, of his generosity in sharing the podium, as you often point out, sharing it with so many other people. And also it reminded me very much, it made me think back to George Washington's tour of the new states of our union. George Washington felt that too many Americans, too many citizens had no real sense of being an American. They didn't know what that was. George Washington was very popular, and he felt that he could be the common denominator to unify our country. And I think that's what President Trump did. He is the common denominator in our country. Love him or hate him, everyone knows him. Everyone hears about what he does. The people who appreciate our liberties, appreciate our Constitution, certainly are in love with so many of the things he's done for our country. The people who don't, we can only hope that they will escape the TDS that is holding them captive from doing the best for themselves and their family. But they're getting it from their media, but they're getting a very twisted picture. However, if I have a newborn baby and all of a sudden my child has $1,000 in an account that comes from the government, that's going to change a lot of people's perception of Donald Trump and the things that he's doing. I thought he did a magnificent job yesterday. I was so happy and so proud of him and so proud of our country and all of our leaders on the Republican side.
Well, I got to watch that, to be honest. I missed it. And you did something very important, watching these events, without commentary, just watching them, and you learn so much. And if you take them in full, I got to go for a drive, and I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna listen. Thank you, Barbara, very, very much. That is a good idea. All right, hold on a second. We've got Alan in Toronto, Canada. Hello. Oh shoot, we lost Alan. Damn it. Vic, how are you?
Hi, Greg. It's Vic, and I have a question that I'd like to ask all people who come to this country and complain bitterly about everything, and they fight to get in, and once they get in, they complain. But I don't see anybody fighting to go to Paraguay or Russia fighting to get in. They're all fighting to get out, but they fight to come here, and then when they come here, they just complain. It's sick. That's
it is kind of, there is something wrong with that. I mean, and like Mamdani really epitomizes what you're talking about. I'm sorry, but perhaps you'd be, if you don't like the system, and you knew it was capitalistic, maybe you'd be more comfortable in Uganda, okay, where they still revere Idi Amin and where it's still against the law to be gay. Interesting point, Vic. I don't disagree. Let's see here. Frank, hello.
Hey, Greg, I got a question for you. Do you think that aiding and abetting the enemy is treasonous?
What are you getting at? I mean, I'd have to look it up. Nobody wants to help out the enemy. What are you getting at, Frank?
Well, what I'm getting at is any politician that voted yes for this NDAA 219 merging our military with the foreign military.
Oh, you mean the Israeli stuff?
Treason.
You mean the Israeli stuff?
Israeli stuff.
No, that ain't treason. All right? No, there's information sharing. I think this thing has been wildly mischaracterized. And, no, we share stuff with our allies all the time. This codifies a few things as far as I know, and also makes it clear what's not going to be shared. It actually is, my understanding, you shouldn't be throwing words like that around, okay? That's a little bit. And by the way, enemy. Israel ain't our enemy, pal. You think Israel's our enemy?
I think, yeah, I think that
Israel.
Yes. Israel.
All right, Frank, get lost. Jeez. Lou, you've been waiting. How are you? Is he there?
Hello.
Lou, do me a favor. Shoot, I'm sorry. Will you call me back someday? I want to hear this story about your son, okay?
Okay.
All right. Please make arrangements there with the switchboard there, Carlos. Thank you very much. Very surprised to hear that from Frank. Very surprised. I think you got to rethink things, huh? Take a look. Are you part of the woke right? I can't stand that woke right. All right? The podcast bros.